Hello everybody, it's Mrs. Lewis, back with another great story. Today, our main focus is going to be looking at the narrator's point of view of a story. We are going to be thinking about the narrator's point of view and how they think, feel, what they see, and what they hear. And that changes their point of view of the characters and of the story. And today we're going to be looking at an interesting character called Wizzle. I just read this book for the first time and I'm in love with it. It is so silly. It also kind of reminds me of what we're going through right now because I don't know about you, but I've been pretty bored lately. And so guess what happens when we're bored? One, we do silly things. Two, we might get into some trouble. I don't know. So we're going to take a look at this character Wizzle, told from a narrator's point of view. And so we're going to learn more about this character Wizzle based on what the narrator tells us. As I read, I will be stopping and asking questions, and these will be answered on a T-chart, okay? And on this T-chart, I have written out what the character thinks, feels, right? Thinks or feels kind of the same thing. Because you feel in your heart, you think in your brain, and it's all kind of connected. What the narrator actually sees and tells us about. And then here, okay? There's some really great things that the author does that helps us really hear what's going on in the story. Those sensory details really drag a reader into the book. So, are you ready for this adventure? As I pause with my Post-its, we will take a moment and write it down on our T-chart. Then you will have an assignment on Seesaw with that T-chart. So, you can pause, rewatch this video as many times as you need while you fill out that T-chart. Okay, so don't stress. Here we go. Wizzle. Wizzle the witch was busy biting her nails. "Beatrice," she said, "I'm bored stiff." "Well, you've been perched on your behind for so long you're stinking the place up," said the parrot. "Now, go make somebody suffer." "But who?" said Wizzle. "And where?" "Frimp Farm," yapped Beatrice. "It's a Frimpy family. All right. There's DeWitt Frimp, Fred Frimp, and Fred's wife, Florence Frimp. Holy alliteration, right? Okay, so the narrator is showing us something pretty cool. First of all, we have to decide what is this being narrated by. Is it first person or third person? You're right, it is third person. Because first person uses the words I, me, we. This one is using third person because we have Wizzle the witch was busy biting her nails, right? So this is not I was biting my nails. So this is definitely third person. I'm going to write that at the top of my chart. Third person. So, because someone else is telling me this story, I really have to pay attention to what this narrator is saying about this character. Because it really is going to drag me in as a reader. I already can tell that the narrator is telling me that, what do you notice? Right? She's nasty, she's smelly, and she's bored. I already know that right now because the narrator told me that. Nasty, smelly, and bored. Do you think I'm going to put that under think, feels, sees, or hears? I'm going to put it under she thinks and feels that she is nasty, smelly, and bored. This narrator is telling me this. Wizzle is nasty, smelly, and bored. Okay? So I write that under my chart right there. If you need to pause right now to write that down, go for it. Let's keep going. She's going to go bother someone. Wizzle took her parrot's advice, turned herself into a common housefly, and zizzed on over to Frith Farm to check it out incognito. She's a fly. There she goes. Snoozing and snoring, with the fly swatter in his fist, was DeWitt Frimp. He detested every breed of fly, especially Musca domestica, housefly. And since he wasn't up to milking cows anymore, he had plenty of time for swatting. Okay, how do you think the narrator feels about DeWitt, this guy? Let's see. Says that he isn't up for milking cows anymore. He had plenty of time for swatting. Snoozing and snoring. Thinking the narrator feels that this guy's a little lazy. Yeah, I feel like she feels like he's got plenty of time. Wizzle lit on his bald head, and acting like a genuine fly, she sailed down his nose, crossed his cheek, and tickled his ear with her tiny feet. DeWitt sprang up, swishing his swatter wherever he could swish it, 3 times missing the witch by only a hair. Look at that. How annoying. Resolved on revenge, Wizzle zoomed out the window, determined to cook up a really nasty plan. "Wizzle," she said to herself, "that bald-headed fuddy-dud with his crazy swatter darn near did me in. He'll be getting his all right, and double quick." Once she got home, Wizzle hurled her body onto her bed and stared at the ceiling as if she dared it. Try to stare back. Okay, the narrator is showing us something about Wizzle. What do you think it is right here? He'll be getting his all right. I think the narrator is showing us that, hey, Wizzle likes revenge and she's kind of lazy. Remember, she's bored all the time? She's kind of lazy. So I'm going to write under think feels that she likes revenge. Suddenly, she got up and began pacing the floor in her snakeskin slippers. "Beatrice," said the witch, "listen, that old foggy keeps his swatter in his left hand, so he's a lefty. I'm going to turn myself into a left-handed work glove and make sure he wears me constantly. Then I'll give him the works. That's the way, Wizzle," Beatrice squawked. "Make him sizzle." I think the narrator is telling us something here. The narrator feels and thinks that she is mean. Oh, yeah. So I added that. She's mean. Before sunrise the next day, Wizzle was down near the Frimp mailbox, skulking in the bushes. When the sun showed up, so did DeWitt, a fly swatter in his left hand and a letter in his right. Presto! What had been a witch became a glove. After posting his letter, DeWitt spotted it. "Frimp, my man, it's your lucky day," he exclaimed, and he traipsed back home with a happy harpy on his hand. So DeWitt Frimp is super excited about this glove. That is actually a witch. DeWitt took to wearing his new glove all the time, except when he washed or shaved or had to wind his watch or pick his nose. He wore it at breakfast, lunch, and dinner as if that was normal behavior. Wizzle gave him time to get used to her, but then she got busy. And DeWitt soon found himself losing his war on the flies. He'd swing and he'd swat and he'd hear the swatter swoosh, but Wizzle just jerked his arm a tad to this side or a tad to that side. No soap. Poor guy just wants to swat the flies. She ain't letting him. This made DeWitt dippy sometimes. He'd let out a war cry and chase the little devils all over the house, hitting everything in sight, except flies. I love the sensory details that the author is giving us here. He let out a war cry. It just really chasing the little devils all over the house. Like, I can picture that in my mind. Are you all right, Pops? Florence Frimp finally asked. I'm fine as wine, DeWitt lied. Baloney, said Fred Frimp. You've been acting nutty ever since you found that glove. Nutty? If anyone around here's nutty, it's you. Anyway, I won't stop wearing it. Please, Pop, said Florence, just take it off for one day and see what happens. No way, and that's that. But they kept pestering him until the witch lost patience and decided to teach Fred and Florence to mind their own business. She began by giving them unbearable itches in unexpected places, and the harder they scratched, the more they itched. So, what do you see or notice about Wizzle? The narrator is telling us something about her. So, we see her doing mean things to people, right? Hold on. Doing mean things to others, right? She's making them itch. She's making them do all kinds of terrible things, putting the glove on that poor guy. Oh, yeah. We also think that she gets a little impatient. Says that, but they kept pestering him until the witch lost patience. So the narrator feels that she is impatient. This narrator is really telling us a lot about what's going on. Okay, we're going to keep going. Learning about our Wizzle. At dinner that night, she made their meatballs explode and their water spurt up like fountains. And in the morning, she made the whole house tremble and shake so that the boards it was built with cried for help. Oh, I love that imagery. Okay, so now the narrator's given us some sensory images, okay? The house is trembling. It trembled and shook, right? I can hear that. I can hear it. I can also hear the boards cry for help. Wizzle's doing a number on these people. So we're going to add that the house trembled and shook. I'm just going to write trembled. And that the boards cried out for help. So the boards that hold the house up, they cried out for help. Can you hear that? Oh my gosh, I can hear it. I can hear it. What great imagery. And this narrator's doing a great job to tell us all about how horrible Wizzle is, right? Can't you just sense what a mean person she is? That's the narrator telling us all this. Making his sad way over the bridge that afternoon, having witnessed the weird things that were happening, DeWitt finally saw the light. Fred and Florence must be right. The glove had to be the culprit. He wrenched it from his wrist and flung it into the river. Wizzle the glove began squirming and stretching, and right there in the water began turning into the hateful hag she had always been. How does the narrator describe her? Hateful. Right? So she feels, the narrator, whoever that is, he, she, whatever, is showing us that she feels, he or she, feels that Wizzle is hateful. So we're going to write, she is hateful. That is what the narrator told us. Right? So we're getting a lot of think feels, aren't we? But just wait. There is a turning point in this story. If I can get back to the page I was on. The hateful hag. There's a lot going on here. And oh, how Wizzle hated getting wet. She'd never had a bath since she was a helpless baby, and all she'd ever washed since then was her 2 horrid hands. Remember, she said she was stanky? She thrashed, gurgled, sputtered, and spat, and then she started to think. What do we hear the narrator telling us? What do we hear? I hear gurgling, sputtering, spatting, right? Those are really good words that help me hear what is happening. So we've got gurgled, sputtered, oops, if I could spell. Oh my Lord, I did it again. Sputtered and spat. I can hear those things, right? I can hear that. Excellent. DeWitt stared in disbelief, but repulsive as Wizzle was, DeWitt couldn't bear to see a fellow creature drowning. It's very nice and forgiving. He dived right in, and holding the disgusting witch in his arms, he started towing her ashore. Now, the narrator just showed us something pretty remarkable about DeWitt. He's kind, he's forgiving, right? I love how the narrator is painting this picture for us so that we can get a good idea of what's happening. Halfway there, he was startled to see that this witch, instead of looking sinister, was blushing, and smiling with gratitude into his wide-open eyes. Wizzle had been so thoroughly cleansed by the crystal clear water that all her vicious nastiness was rolled away downstream. What is the narrator telling us we see? What is it? Blushing. Oh my goodness. We see she is blushing. Oh my goodness. She is blushing. She's clean. Right? She's blushing. She's clean. Oh my goodness. Wow. Now, if you need to pause and see what I've written on here, you can do so. Okay? Because you're just going to take notes on your own T-chart. Okay. Instead of running for his life as soon as they hit the riverbank, DeWitt found himself hugging a surprisingly sweet old lady. Needless to say, Wizzle and DeWitt fell completely in love and wound up an old married couple who stayed together on the farm. What changed about Wizzle and DeWitt? Yeah, she was blushing. She's clean now. She's no longer a mean witch. She's just a sweet old lady. And all her nastiness went away, right? Wizzle was never bored again. Sometimes she and DeWitt even played cards with Fred and Florence, and Beatrice would kidbits at their games. I guess I'll have to stay here with these humdrum humans, the parrot figured. It'll be a whole new hayride. What a silly story, isn't it? Okay, so let's take a look. Make sure I got everything on there. Oh, I forgot to say that the water on Think and Feel. So the narrator thinks that the water washed away all of her nastiness. Okay? The water washed away, sorry, it's really bright, all of her nastiness. Yep, that was the last thing I needed to add. So I'm going to hold this up, and you may pause the video now so you can get this information. Okay, so we just learned that through a book, no matter who the narrator is, first person, third person, doesn't matter, that the narrator does a really good job of using sensory details to tell us something about the characters. Okay? And when we analyze and think about all of those sensory things, we get a better idea of who this character is. Now, reading this without looking at how the narrator thinks, feels, sees, and hears about this character, I may not have enjoyed the story as much. But knowing that Wizzle is nasty, smelly, and bored, she likes revenge, she's mean, she's impatient, she's hateful, but then something happened. The water washed away all of her nastiness. Now, the narrator does a good job to tell us that we can see her doing mean things to others, and all of a sudden when the water washes it away, she's blushing and she's clean. We can see that. We can hear the house trembling when she's doing mean things to others. The boards of the house are crying out for help. She is gurgling, right? She is sputtering and spatting as she is drowning, it seems, in the water before DeWitt jumps in to save her. Okay? All of these great images that we were able to get, these sensory details, help us better understand the character. So I hope you had fun with this. Go ahead and go to Seesaw and fill out that T-chart because we're going to need that later on when we compare and contrast. And another book will be coming your way tomorrow. Good job, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.